We're going.
We are on. Hello guys, Anmol here from Paris and Baz Real Estate. Welcome back to another episode of Paris and Baz Cast, where we bring to you weekly guest speakers to talk about topics that impact property management, sales and finance, the three services we provide here at Paris and Baz. Hello to everyone that's coming on. Hello Glenn. There's a few people. So we've got Instagram, our Facebook page, as well as our personal profile today. And the main man we have today is Ben Handler. Hello.
Thank you for joining us today.
Welcome. Thank you.
Worries. So just without further ado, let's get this started.
Yep, just a brief introduction of yourself, Ben.
Yes, so the background started back in 13 years ago when I was studying building construction and property at university. I don't know how I ended up in that degree, but I was there and then didn't get into construction. I then worked in the corporate world and worked in property funds management and realised that I wanted to run a business after that. So I got out of that and then went to the US, went to California, and then realised that buyers needed help in Australia and they were misrepresented. So then I started my former company with my former business partner called Cohen Handler, which was a buyer's agent business based across Australia and also based, we have an office in California, we have a small office in Singapore.
Right.
So that's
I'm
the journey.
from humble beginnings. Huh?
Yeah.
Very good. So, what is a buyer's agent, basically?
Yes, a brief intro for those that have never experienced the services of a buyer's agent. What exactly do they do?
The simplest way to put it is they represent the buyer's best interests exclusively, much like a real estate agent represents the seller, the vendor. The buyer's agent represents the buyer to source property, negotiate on property, do due diligence, just represent from end to end, from the beginning of understanding the brief till exchanging through the settlement. Right.
And let's talk about some of the benefits. So those that have never used one before, what can they expect when dealing with a buyer's agent?
It depends. However, typically we're solving problems, or buyer's agents are solving problems for people who are time poor. So giving back people their time, so they're not leaving work during the week, and on Saturdays they can spend it with their family and all that stuff. Negotiating, buying the right property at the right price. Off markets, everyone wants a good off market deal, but sometimes they're expensive. So sometimes they're not the best.
They're not the best.
The best deals.
What we see with buyers is with the negotiating part, they really struggle. So I think that's where we can really step into buyers agent.
And relationships with real estate agents. Having that strong relationship with the real estate agent enables a nice, smooth transaction. Right? You guys would know.
Absolutely. So being able to deal with someone who can, talk the same language, I guess, in so to speak, of what the expectation from the vendor is versus what the expectation from the buyer is, and sort of bringing that in line, I think definitely is the key. So I think the timing is definitely the key. Plus, I guess, exposure to different markets as well. So, talking about buyer's agents, obviously there's two types. So you've got from a purchase point of view, there's investment properties, and then there's owner-occupied properties. Let's talk a little bit more about that and about what that exposure allows. So those that are not that have not invested in different states, how can that benefit with using a buyer's agent?
I mean, the client's looking to purchase typically investment property, family homes, so PPR, principal place of residence, even developers looking for sites, people looking in niche for like apartment blocks. So the buyer's agent is really there to facilitate and work with the client based on what they're looking for. And buyer's agents can do all three. They can work with developers, they can work with principal place of residence buyers, they can work with investors, they can be buying across different states. So a lot of buyer's agents like Arjun, who you had on here recently, he lives in New South Wales and he buys a lot in Queensland. And some of them are buying, if they're in New South Wales, also in Victoria. And a lot of buyers who are buying across different states, they don't understand, like if you're buying in Queensland, there's flood zones in certain areas, where to buy. And so buyer's agents who understand and have the expertise in certain markets are able to also add value to clients who don't have that expertise.
Because they've got the expert in that market.
And the intel, exactly, especially from a point of view of what's planned for the area, because I'm not like, if you are investing in a particular suburb, there may be other things that are going from a council perspective that you wouldn't know otherwise. So having that sort of intel on the ground definitely helps.
Because it helps with capital growth in the future. You've got to make sure you're spending in the right area.
And there's a lot of, let's say, nonsense online around where to buy and all these hot spots. You need to make sure you're making the right decision, and buyer's agents typically understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Especially if they're transacting in the area.
Correct.
Yeah. And do you have any stats or anything that you can share in terms of case studies or stories of, from a timing perspective of being looking for a property? Because traditionally, from when we have had buyers come through, some are looking for a year even for their principal place of residence. What are some of the key numbers that we can talk about?
Well, interesting. I heard a story recently from a buyer's agent I'm friends with in Sydney, and she had a client that was looking for 2.5 years.
Oh, wow.
Literally 2.5 years, pretty regularly looking for a property, couldn't find it, and that buyer's agent ended up buying the client the property in 7.5 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, that was a pretty cool story. In terms of timeframes for buying property, investor clients are typically about, from what I've seen, and this is just from the data that I'm aware of, can be between about 30 to 34 days.
Yeah.
For owner-occupiers, there's a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
They don't like the backyard that's facing south and the kitchen's this. So
Yeah.
that can be up to like 55 to 65 days for the transaction time frame. But people looking for themselves, it's typically a lot longer, as you guys.
Yeah.
There's more emotions involved, support of a home.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that I've also found is that having someone to sort of talk through what exactly they're wanting to achieve, of why they're buying. I think that's key as well, because when you're buying for your family home, yes, you're being impressed by what you're seeing on the photos and everything, and so you're going in, you're having a look. But then you haven't really pinpointed what your key must-haves are. So say the top 3 requirements from an owner-occupier or from an investment point of view, whether you're looking at return, so cash flow or capital growth. So having someone that can guide through about those goals and how they can be achieved, that's definitely a key that I've also found, that if you have an expert that can talk you through the process of what you're trying to achieve, that
this becomes easier, clearer because everything's on paper.
I agree. And it's like when you get your contract reviewed as a buyer, you have a conveyancer or a lawyer. You're getting finance, you go to a mortgage broker, and I think for people buying property, it makes sense to have an expert on your side, because as real estate agents, you guys represent the vendor, and you do a very good job at that. And buyers do, I feel like,
They help, And a lot of the buyers we see, they're not clean what they're buying as well. They're 50-50 when we see about homes, which is
because again, they're buying with emotions, so it makes
which makes your job sometimes a bit easy because you can put the price up.
The emotional price, 10% of the time.
20%.
Okay, that's the trick we're going to try next time. That's lovely. So let's talk about the Buyer's Agent Institute and those that are wanting to become a buyer's agent. What exactly does that involve?
So the institute started because I looked at the buyer's agent market across Australia. And I realised that it was really small. When I looked at it, there was less than 500 buyer's agents in the whole of Australia. And there's more than 50,000 real estate agents. So you put that into context, it's not a lot. So I did some research and thought, well, there's no training platform out there to show everyday people, like sophisticated people like Arjun, who you had on here. He owns 8 properties, loves property. How do I help these people run a buyer's agent business and start one? And so that's why it started. And what I'm doing is I'm just helping people all across Australia who are passionate about property. They could work in different sectors like banking or something in transport, healthcare. I'm helping them convert their passion and knowledge for property into a part-time or full-time career.
So you just give that platform basically and make it a reality, which is that's very interesting fact. 50,000 agents and 500
And it's nice to be working with real estate agents as buyer's agents. We've got a qualified buyer who's paid us typically a retainer. And you've got a qualified vendor.
That's right, who wants to sell.
And let's just do a deal. And I think it's a great opportunity for Australia to start embracing more buyer's agents. And for people who want to get into this space and become a buyer's agent, there's less than 1,000 buyer's agents right now. And so it's an amazing opportunity for people to get into this career and capitalise on it. I mean, you guys have done phenomenally well to penetrate your market in such a short period of time, because it's more saturated than
more competitive.
So how does it work exactly? So is it a particular, like a training online based, or is it a particular place? How does it work?
It's a 6-week online training program that's got the content stuck in there, and I run a live weekly coaching webinar every week of the year, so 52 weeks. And then, we keep adding new content to the program. It keeps evolving, and there's a lot of other additional coaching as well. So it's just continuous education every week of the year to help people build businesses.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And in terms of, I guess, help in the sense that if, say, for example, if someone wants to be a buyer's agent and want to tap into the Brisbane market, for example, is there sort of help within the group that they can, so if they haven't really done that themselves, obviously, before they go recommending to clients, how do they get exposure?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like, we've got a good community, and everyone's learning from each other. Everyone's at different stages of the buyer's agent journey and cycle. So everyone's collaborating and learning, and there's so much research out there and data that people can access to help them make informed decisions. So a lot of people are using third-party research to help them with decisions, and they're even also flying to different states to meet the real estate agents and to really learn what's going on.
So it's all live, that you see reality of the game.
Yeah, okay, we've got a question here. It says, do you suggest to buy with a 5% or should we save around 20%? I think it's sort of very specific for a property, but in terms of, I think one way to take that question would be as when you are negotiating on a contract, for example, a purchase, do you normally go in with a 5% to represent the buyers? Is that a proposal that gets put forward, or is that case-by-case basis?
In Sydney we do that. We did 5%, but it depends on the client as well. Like if the client just is okay to transfer a 10% or write a cheque for a 10%, then we'd do a 10, but we definitely did 5.
And in terms of the saving of 20%, I think that's more of a loans question. So can you elaborate on that?
So basically, if you've got a 5% deposit, you're looking at paying LMI, mortgage insurance. So basically, you're giving money to the bank, which you're never going to get back. So if you've got a 20% deposit, basically you're saving the LMI. So
what would that equate to in dollar wise?
Well, it's very hard to say because it depends on the loan size and the property value. So the higher the loan size, the more the LMI. So you could be talking 5,000 to 30,000 to 50,000. Depends
on the loan size. And
so sometimes customers are willing to pay LMI because they want to free up their cash flow and buy a second property. Instead of paying 20% for one property, they'll pay 10% for one property and 10% for another property. So it depends on the individual circumstances there.
Yeah, there you go. I hope that answers the question, Manpreet. If there's any other questions, do feel free to ask us. We've got Ben in the room for a little bit more extra time as well. So if there's anything else that we can answer offline, we will do that as well. Is there anything else that we've missed?
I think we've basically covered it all. Anything else?
I just think it's a phenomenal opportunity for people who are passionate about property, who really they love property. You could be an investor, and to turn buying property into a career. It's a lot of fun, and operating on the buyer's side. While there's low competition, it's an exciting time to move your career quickly.
Absolutely.
Especially with a lot of opportunities, not saturated. That's the main point I'll take.
And I think even from our point of view, as we were discussing earlier, we are going into a model where we would have for the first 2 weeks when we sign up a listing exclusively to buyers agents. Let's go do those deals. So that's something that we want to be able to implement once we have those connections for owner-occupied or from an investment point of view, and then opening it up. So it is definitely in benefit to the buyers as well as the vendors. To have two parties that we each represent. We have a professional representing you, and to be able to negotiate and close the deal.
Exactly.
There you go. Any final words before we leave? Let's see. We've covered everything.
Thank you.
Perfect. No worries. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate that. So do tune in again next week. We've got Jay Anderson, another one of your students, coming on to talk about commercial property. And if there's any other questions as well, do feel free to let us know. Thank you so much for your time. We'll see you guys next week.
See you guys.